Montpelier. I don't live in Montpelier.
I can't remember which building.
Will the Senate please come to order? We'll take a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements? Seeing none. We have H 461, an act relating to expanding employee access to unpaid leave. And under Rule 31, it will be referred to the Committee on Appropriations. We now have Senate bills for introduction. S 153, an act relating to the creation of Extreme Temperature Worker Protection Act, introduced by Senator Rom Hinsdale and Clarkson. Please listen to the reading of the bill.
S 153, an act relating to the creation of the Extreme Temperature Worker Protection Act.
Now you've heard the first reading of the bill, and it is referred to the Committee on Economic Development. We have a House bill for reference, H 364, an act related to approval of the annexation of property by the Village of Swanton, passed the House April 25th, 2025. And it is referred to the, please listen to the first reading.
H 364, an act relating to approval of the annexation of property by the Village of Swanton.
For Senate rules, it will be referred to the Rules Committee. Orders of the day. We have JR 12, Senate Resolution reaffirming the friendship between the state of Vermont and Taiwan and supporting enhanced Vermont-Taiwan bilateral relations and Taiwan's participation in international organizations. The bill was referred to the Committee on Economic Development, which reports it has considered the resolution and recommends that it be adopted. Listen to the second reading of the resolution.
SR 12, Senate Resolution reaffirming the friendship between the state of Vermont and Taiwan and supporting enhanced Vermont-Taiwan bilateral relations and Taiwan's participation in international organizations.
I recognize the senator from Rutland District, Senator Weeks, for the report of the Committee on Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. President. For over a decade, I routinely patrolled the Taiwan Straits in Navy destroyers and cruisers. The Straits are an 81-mile wide body of water between Taiwan and mainland China, and we were providing security presence supporting U.S. strategic interests. But it was only last year that I had the opportunity to set foot on Taiwan as a member of the New England legislative delegation, joining a long list of delegation alumni in this chamber. What we found in Taiwan last year was a warm, polite, respectful, hospitable, intelligent, motivated, and entrepreneurial people. My understanding is that this year marks at least 10 years of annual resolutions recognizing the important U.S.-Vermont-Taiwan relations. We were pleased to note the support of the members of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office based out of Boston, who unfortunately could not be with us today. SR 12 recognizes our common Vermont-Taiwan values of freedom and free market economies. This resolution also highlights that Taiwan is the second largest export destination for Vermont goods, worth more than $250 million per year, which I believe accounts for nearly all the Senator from Essex maple syrup production. One item in the resolution that probably needs explanation, you'll see a reference to the Taiwan Relations Act, which was enacted in 1979. This is the formal U.S. policy toward Taiwan and is an act of Congress that defined the officially substantial but non-diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Taiwan. Resolution SR 12 is particularly important in the current global climate of instability where boundaries of friends and foes are blurring. The Taiwanese are extremely loyal, and this resolution reconfirms this commitment between Vermont and our Taiwanese friends. Copies of this resolution will be sent to President Trump, to the President of Taiwan, to Governor Scott, the Vermont federal delegation. The witnesses in committee that we heard from were Tim Tierney from the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. He is the Director of International Trade, as well as Rick Siegel and Michael Chernick from the Office of Legislative Counsel. The vote in the Economic Development Committee was 5-0-0. Please join the committee in supporting Resolution SR 12. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall the resolution be read a third time? Are you ready for the question?
Roll call.
Roll call has been requested, and when the vote is taken, it shall be by roll. Are you ready for the question? If so, the secretary will call the roll.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Beck.
Yes.
Senator Baumgart. Senator Brennan. Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Yes.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collmore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Douglas.
Yes.
Senator Bueller.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Harrison.
Yes.
Senator Hart.
Yes.
Senator Hashim.
Yes.
Senator Heffernan.
Yay.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Major.
Yes.
Senator Matos.
Yes.
Senator Norris. Senator Kershly.
Yes.
Senator Plunkett.
Yes.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Yes.
Senator Bohofsky.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Weeks.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Senator Williams.
Yes.
Senator Baumgart. Senator Brennan. Senator Norris.
The ayes voting 27, the nays voting 0. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of SR 12. We now have H 493, an act relating to making appropriations for the support of government. Are there any amendments to be offered prior to third reading? Senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to offer the amendment. It is in your calendar on page 1114. There are 4 instances of amendment. The first would be a repeal of the clean heat standard. This would remove the registry, the potential for the imposition of a fee, which the PUC tells us is up to 58 cents per gallon. This amendment would also allow the Department of Taxes, that's the first amendment, sorry. In the second amendment, it would allow for tax sharing from the tax department for the purpose of instance number 3, which is a fuel tax report that could be prepared and disseminated to the public on or before January 15th of any given year, separated out by fuel type and volume. And the fourth instance of amendment is to repeal the cause of action in the GWSA, which allows anybody to sue Vermont if we're not meeting the climate mandates in the Global Warming Solutions Act. I offer this amendment this issue has lingered on for too long. The legislature 2 sessions ago said we would have a check back vote on this, whether we're going to do it or not. We have not done it. There are still things that the PUC has to account for, the positions, the maintenance of the fuel registry, which has been very problematic. And of course, there's the lingering potential for this legislature or any future legislature to activate this fee and impose up to 58 cents on Vermonters as calculated by the PUC. And as far as the Global Warming Solutions Act, The, you know, the Secretary Moore has been very clear in saying that we have a lot of work to do. It's very challenging work. Allowing people to sue us just costs the state of Vermont a lot of money, takes up a lot of time, and it distracts from the work that they need to do. So I offered these four instances in this one amendment. I asked that the amendment be divided into two divisions. The first division being the first, second, and third instance of amendment, and the second part being the fourth instance of amendment. And I ask that when we vote on those two divisions, that we vote by roll. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am wondering if this amendment is germane to H 493.
Recess. Take a brief recess. You're supposed to be standing. Senator. Senator, I believe what you called for was a point of order, and the chair has found that it is not germane.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Caledonia.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules to find this, to address, to bring up this amendment.
Senator from Caledonia has moved that we suspend the rules to take up a non-germane amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President.
A question for the senator from Caledonia.
I love California.
Yeah. Are you making that motion on all 4 instances of amendment?
Yes, yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a debatable motion.
This is.
In general, and just for context, I would say that I have always advocated that we not overrule the chair on a question like this. It had been my intent, had the ruling gone the other way, to not overrule the chair. We have a motion to overrule the chair. I would simply ask that people follow the chair in this regard and vote not to allow this non-germane piece to become germane. I think that's pretty simple as a direction. And what I would ask is that senators vote no on this as a way of reaffirming the choice that the chair made. Thank you.
Senator, I'd like to thank you for making it clear that they should always follow the chair. Senator from Caledonia.
I would just like to put a fine point on this, that this is not a motion to overrule the chair. This is a motion to suspend the rules. That is a different motion.
Senator from Windsor.
Can I just get a clarification on a yes vote would be suspending the rules to allow us to debate this non-germane amendment, and a no vote would not allow it to be considered germane. So, okay.
Senator from Windsor, you are correct. A no vote ends the debate. A yes vote continues the debate. Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden.
Point of information or clarity, how many, is this a supermajority?
Three quarters, I believe.
3/4 majority. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call has been requested. The vote shall be taken by roll. The secretary shall commence to call the roll.
Senator Baru.
No.
Senator Beck.
Yes.
Senator Baumgart.
No.
Senator Brennan. Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
No.
Senator Clarkson.
No.
Senator Collins.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
No.
Senator Douglas.
Yes.
Senator Gulick.
No. No.
Senator Hardy.
No.
Senator Harrison.
No.
Senator Hart.
Yes.
Senator Hashim.
No.
Senator Heffernan.
Yay.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
No.
Senator Major.
No.
Senator Matos.
Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Pershling.
No.
Senator Plunkett.
No.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
No.
Senator Bohofsky.
No.
Senator Watson.
No.
Senator Weeks.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
No.
Senator Williams.
Yes.
Senator Brennan.
Yes.
The ayes 13, the nays 17, and the motion has failed. The question is, are there any other amendments before third reading? Seeing none, the question is, seeing none, we will have, Senator from Caledonia,
And the California amendment.
California amendment.
I think these are being passed out. I think many of you have already seen an email. I won't belabor the point. That's a pretty brief amendment. What this amendment would do to House Bill 493 is it would it would delay the enforcement of the low EV, low emission vehicle and zero emission vehicle mandate, the California mandate, and it would push that off from 2026 to 2028. And I offer this amendment so that our car dealers and our truck dealers won't be in an environment where they have to have 35% of their vehicles be of these two classes of vehicles. I think Vermont's making tremendous progress with our EV and our low emissions vehicles. I think last year we were 12% EV, and I think that's wonderful, but I don't believe that 35% is attainable. I think it's going to be very difficult for our auto dealers and our consumers that are going to be looking for a vehicle in the next couple of years. So I offer this amendment to push this compliance off until 2028. Thank you.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a little concerned about these series of amendments that are trying to put everything into the budget that hasn't gone through the legislative committee process. And when I look at this and what I know from the budget, I'm questioning whether this is germane. So I have a point of order asking the presiding officer whether this amendment is germane.
We'll take a brief recess. Senate, please come to order. The chair finds your point of order well taken, and this is not germane. Are there any further amendments prior to third reading? Senator from Caledonia.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we suspend our rules and to include this non-germane amendment into page 493.
Senator from Caledonia has moved that the Senate suspend its rules to allow a non-germane amendment. Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden.
Very briefly, I would just ask senators to keep in mind what I said on our last vote, and I would recommend a no vote on this as well. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question?
Roll call.
Roll call has been requested, and when the vote is taken, it shall be by roll.
Both of you. I gave you one copy.
Are you ready for the question? If so, the secretary shall call the roll.
Senator Brew,
No.
Senator Beck,
Yes.
Senator Bonner,
No.
Senator Brennan,
Yes.
Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Chittenden,
Yes.
Senator Clarkson,
No.
Senator Collmore,
Yes.
Senator Cummings,
No.
Senator Douglas,
Yes.
Senator Dooley,
No.
Senator Hardy,
No.
Senator Harrison,
No.
Senator Hart,
Yes.
Senator Hashim,
No.
Senator Heffernan,
Yay.
Senator Engel,
Yes.
Senator Lyons,
No.
Senator Major,
No.
Senator Matos,
Yes.
Senator Norris,
Yes.
Senator Pershler,
No.
Senator Plunkett,
No.
Senator Ron Hinsdale,
No.
Senator Bohofsky,
No.
Senator Watson,
No.
Senator Weeks,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
Yes.
Senator White,
No.
Senator Williams,
Yes.
The ayes voting 14, the nays voting 16, and the motion has failed. Are there any further amendments prior to third reading? Please listen to the third reading.
H 493, an act relating to making appropriations for the support of government.
Question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment? Senator from Essex.
Mr. President, I want to thank Appropriations for working hard on a bill that I think it's put them in a tough spot. I think that they did the best that they could with the bill that came over from the House. Mr. President, my objections isn't to anything that they've done. It's just too much. We are now $2 billion plus more monies now than what we were pre-COVID. The ARPA money, every bit of money, that federal monies that we've got from the government, other than maybe some match money stuff, is gone. But yet we haven't adjusted our spending to that. All the programs we put in place are still there, putting the taxpayer on the hook for a lot more money than what Vermonters can afford. This budget also adds $50 million to the base funding. And as I've learned one thing in this state, or probably any state, when you add money to the bottom line, it doesn't go away. We're also adding 35 positions in a time where we are really kind of looking forward as far as how we're going to make government work and the pressures that the taxpayers are going to feel. And I know as far as running businesses that when times get tough, I don't have positions. I try not to cut positions, but it should be on the table. But I certainly try to level the positions of where they are and not add more. We've heard eloquently what I believe was eloquent from the Chair of Transportation the other day, talking about how that budget is hemorrhaging and how they were able in that committee to keep it together and pass a budget for what they had, but that the next years looking forward, we're going to be pretty bleak. We're seeing the same in institutions. We don't have enough money in institutions to, what I believe, to even just maintain the building's integrity, and to fund a lot of the projects that we'd like to fund. And then we all know what education is, where education's at. In fact, we're spending $77 million this year, Mr. President, to buy down the tax rate to keep Vermonters calm. And I think from what we're hearing, it's not an official estimation of any sort, but we're hearing that that's going to be double that next year. We could really use $77 million this year in our budget if we were able to figure out this education thing. And we certainly don't have $150 million to try to buy down the tax rate next year. I'm also concerned about what this bill doesn't have. We seem to find plenty of monies in this building to fund addiction. Anything to do with keeping folks that are abusing drugs. We seem to find plenty of money for that. But anytime we look for finding solutions, because addiction is not an incurable disease. We have helped thousands and thousands of people become unaddicted, and we have requests in here to fund places that are really intent on making people better. I'm very disappointed that in this budget we couldn't find any money for that, but yet we could find monies to fund a place that no other place in the world allows it, where we have illegal drugs coming in and having people use them in the safety of basically law enforcement. And that even in that area, the people that are wanting to sell those drugs can't even be arrested in any way. I'm also very disappointed in what we see in housing. I know Gus Seeley's group is very happy to get some more dollars, but that isn't the end. That isn't the solution to how we're going to solve housing in the state of Vermont. There's a lot of comprehensive things that we need to do, but having $550,000 per unit, which is what those dollars are, that's what they seem to be. And again, there are needs in places for that type of construction, but we need to get the construction under control, because there's no such thing as affordable housing when you're building 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments for $550,000. So again, I want to thank the committee for their hard work. I hope during maybe committees or conferences that we can get some of the spending down and help the taxpayers of the state of Vermont. And for those reasons, Mr. President, that I've outlined, I need to vote no on this. But thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the words from the senator from Essex. I just wanted to clarify the $49 million increase in base. As I pointed out yesterday, 20 million of that and 19 million that is just an accounting issue of whether you're taking the $19 million out of the general fund or out of the child care special funds. And then another 6 million of that is about increasing the CCFAP rate for childcare, as we can continue to help families that are struggling with the cost of childcare, raising what the incentive will be. There's things in here that I know that a lot of folks, and I think even the senator from Essex, support, that lead to this thing, like the $1.3 million that we're investing in the state's attorneys and the sheriff, so we can have a strong judicial system and a strong support of our prosecutors that are dealing with the crimes and be able to move people through the process, so we have transport deputies. That's something that the governor didn't have. There's other things that the governor supported that came later that we had to add on here. So there's just a few things that get us to that amount. So I feel like it's not that we spent a whole bunch of money on a whole bunch of different things to get to that $49 million. It's a few items, 7 items basically get you almost all the way there. And if you add in the few things that we were doing that the governor supported that came in after his budget, you're basically almost at the same spending level as the governor. And I don't want to try to debate everything that the senator said and appreciate the positive comments about the work of the committee. But on the VHCB money, the key thing there is we are giving a lot of money to some other housing programs. And I agree, it can't all be in the work of perpetually affordable construction, that the work that VHCB does with partners throughout the state. But the big difference is that is perpetually going to be affordable. Even if the cost is high per unit, the rent is going to be affordable, and it has to be. It's required to be affordable in forever, in perpetuity. Some of the other projects can get units on faster, and we're supporting them. We agreed with the governor's BHIP appropriation. We agreed with the governor's amount, the $9.1 million for the infrastructure loan fund, because we do see that we want to get these private projects built. We supported the money in the capital bill to go to infrastructure private investments, because they can go faster and they can be cheaper per unit, but then maybe those are only going to be required to be affordable for 5 or 10 years, and then they go to the market rate, and the people that we're trying to help to have housing get kicked out when the landlords move it to market rate. So we think it is important to have a balance, and that's why we also thought it was important to not only fully fund the VHCB, but also give them a little extra money so we can try to improve our housing. Also, VHCB is the only one doing shelters. The private market is not going to invest in a shelter, and we need more shelter capacity so we can lower the amount of money we're spending on the motel hotel program. So just wanted to remind the senators of those points. Thank you.
Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we were referring to the Overdose Prevention Center funding in Burlington, I want to be clear that that's not in this budget. It was in the opioid settlement fund bill that we voted out, I believe unanimously last week. Further, there are over 100 overdose prevention centers worldwide, including 2 in the United States, and these sites save lives, which allows people to recover from substance use disorder, as if you are not alive, you cannot recover. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I stand before the body conflicted, in all honesty. I want to thank the 7 members of the Senate Appropriations Committee for being very open and receptive to things that I wanted to have included in the budget, and they did for 99% of the time. I'm hoping that the next stage in the process, the conference process, will be able to trim just a bit. I'm so close to being able to vote for this right now, but I probably will be voting no on it. The positions are troubling to me, and with those come automatic increases in spending. But I do want to echo the senator from Essex's comments regarding the Appropriations Committee. I think they did outstanding work. And hopefully, as I say, in the next stage, we will be able to get to a point where I can support the bill. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to share my appreciation to the Committee on Appropriations for the work that they did and for creating a very difficult budget. And this is a situation in which we look at, and perhaps the one criticism I have of the Committee on Appropriations is it's made my work on the Committee of Finance harder, because we got to raise the money. And I remember the conversations that I've had at various town halls and so on, particularly before the last election with people, who raised the issue of, look, we see these costs going up and up and up. We see the spending goes on and on and on. What can we do about it? And the answer was very simple. We got to stop spending. It's simple. It's not that government does anything bad. Virtually everything that people ask for is good. But at some point, the ability to raise that money and the effect that it has on the people that we serve becomes more and more and more obvious. If we continue to increase costs, which means for added staff and added programs and added expenditures, those people aren't going to be able to live in Vermont. And the task that we are given to help our constituents becomes more and more difficult if our best help is to raise their costs to the point that they can't live here. I think this budget has many good starts, has many good things that will ultimately come about. But the discipline that we have to adhere to of making sure that we make Vermont a place that people can live, that our constituents can survive. And at some point of that list of good things, as hard as it may be, we've got to draw a line and say, gee, we can't do any more good things this year because we don't have the money to do it. And I think we've reached that point in this budget, and that's why I'm not going to vote in favor of it. And I'm sorry that I can't. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Addison.
Thank you. May I inquire of the Chair of Appropriations, the presenter of the bill?
The Chair of Appropriations is interrogated.
Thank you, Mr. President. We all have heard quite a bit about the actions of the federal government and the severe cuts that they are making to many of the programs that are extremely important to our constituents. And even further, some of the actions that the president is taking that will impose tariffs and wreak havoc on our trade and our economy. And so I would wonder if you could relay to me, I believe there's a list of some things that included in this budget that are supposed to help prepare or potentially put aside funding for the eventuality of a potential downturn in our economy. As has been mentioned, the chair of the Transportation Committee had a pretty dire assessment of our transportation fund. Our other funds are also potentially impacted, and I'm wondering if you could tell me what in this budget is there to prepare for that potential in the next year or two.
Thank you for the question, Mr. President. There are a few things. I think the things that I would mention, there are increases to the base funding for our designated agencies, services that are happening in our communities, a bunch of social issues that are funded with state funding. We're holding that money back. I think it's around over $30 million of rate increases for those agencies that won't go into effect until November 1st, so that we have time to see what the federal budget is. The federal fiscal year starts in October, so we will have some time, and we could potentially not do those rate increases if we find other priorities, given the potential cuts from the federal government, or more cuts than we've already seen. Or not, I should say not only cuts, but pulling money away from the state that's already been granted or awarded to the state is getting pulled back. So that was one thing we did. We delayed some of the rate increases by a quarter of the year. We're anticipating funds coming in the last quarter of the fiscal year that we don't have represented in the budget. We think there will be somewhere north of $40 million in a typical year. And this is also kind of an answer to the senator from Franklin. We could have spent more money. That usually the Appropriations Committee will say, okay, we think there's going to be $40 million coming in. Let's list all the things that we're going to spend that money on. This year we said, no, let's take $45 million and set it aside to deal with potential federal cuts. There's also language in the bill that gives the Fiscal Committee and the Emergency Board more discretion if certain conditions are met to meet if the federal cuts are met, so that we can maybe address these issues if it happens when the legislature is not in session. Of course, the governor can also call us into session if it gets very bad and we need legislative action. But if there's some things that we could do just with the E-Board or the Joint Fiscal Committee, we have language in there to address for that. I would say that those are the things that are the main things that I think answers the question that was asked.
So, Mr. President, I'm not sure I understand. It seems counterintuitive that we wouldn't actually increase the rates to our designated agencies and other health and human service providers. Those are the very agencies that are likely to be in trouble if we have the cuts from the federal government. And it sounds like the contingency plan that the Appropriations Committee has put in the bill actually would take money away from them in order to address potential federal cuts. So could you explain that to me? Could the senator explain that to me, Mr. President?
The rates, they do get increased rates, but we do delay they get implemented until we have the full picture of the federal funds. I think it's a point well taken that you would hope that they could start right away at the beginning with that. We agreed that they needed the money, so we wanted to increase those rates and have that in there. But instead of giving money and then taking it away, which is very difficult, you don't want people to hire people, then say, no, now we need it. We said, you're gonna get the money, but we're gonna just postpone it that quarter. When we get to the BAA, we could even restore the money that they would have had if we have the money at that point. We can make them whole either in the next budget adjustment or the next fiscal year budget. But that was a chunk of money that we thought would be, okay to postpone as we waited to see what the federal situation was. But I wish it wasn't the case.
Okay, again, that sounds counterintuitive to me because those are the very agencies that are going to need the money. So if we are taking money away from them not doing the rate increases for them, that would further hurt them if there are federal cuts along the way. So that sounds counterintuitive to me. The other question I have is the transfer of the $77 million to the education fund. And I know that the Finance Committee, I believe, is discussing this afternoon, but that funding has been promised by various people to be put toward reducing property tax rates. But to your point about clawing back money, if we use that to reduce property tax rates, and we are in the situation where we need more money, we may be in the situation of clawing back money from our school districts. I have been in that situation as a school board member when this body and the General Assembly asked to claw back money in the past, and it's extremely difficult for school boards to do that. And I'm wondering, is there any provision that would prevent or put aside funding to make sure that we don't have to do that type of thing in the next year for school districts?
There's no provision addressing that now.
Okay. And you mentioned, the senator mentioned the use of the e-board and the Joint Fiscal Committee as a sort of stopgap potential. Does this bill expand the powers of those committees or just use existing powers?
It does change when they can take action based on the federal, because before it was a 1%, I think was the threshold. And so it does address the thresholds by department, because some departments, like Department of Libraries, has a very small amount of federal money, but then there's agencies like AHS that has $3 billion of federal money. So we didn't want to have it based just on a dollar number or a percentage, because 4% of the library's federal money is like $8,000 or something. So we just adjusted it so that we thought it would be in appropriate levels that they could take action from.
Okay, so the bill does expand the powers of a small group of legislators to make decisions on behalf of the full body.
That would be one way to word it, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the senator. I really would like to support this budget. I have always supported our budgets, but I am very concerned that there's not sufficient work done in this budget to prepare for the eventuality of federal funding cuts and for an economic downturn. And I am very much on the fence at this point. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. In my time as a legislator, I have lived through budgets that we had to reckon with through global economic recessions, through floods and disasters, through pandemics and the aftermath of pandemics. And I came into this session wondering how on earth we were going to pull off a budget at all in spring. And we keep calling this the federal situation. But in my maybe arguably short lifetime, I have not seen an economic downturn inflicted so quickly and so intentionally by those who have power in Washington. I think we need to be extremely clear that Republicans took power in all branches of government, both chambers of Congress in Washington, and have inflicted deep pain on the American people, either through their action or in some cases their inaction. This morning in our Senate Economic Development Committee, we had our labor statistics director, and we have asked him questions, I believe, through over a decade of trying to understand our unemployment situation. And I asked him once more, do you see the rapid signs of a major unemployment event, this time man-made, this time caused by the realities that are bearing down on us from Washington? And he said, absolutely. What he is beginning to see is vast increases in unemployment claims and the early signs that we will see an event that will put us further back in terms of Vermonters' incomes, their well-being. And I want to say, as we look at this budget and take this vote, we learned this morning, at least in our committee, that we have not, as a state, recovered to the jobs level of 2019. We hit our highest jobs level in Vermont in 2011. And that was because of economic pressures related to baby boomers not feeling ready to retire because we were still dealing with the 2008 recession. But I just want us to be really clear that this represents careful and diligent work in one of the most unprecedented economic events of most of our lifetimes. One that remains more unpredictable than the aftermath of a disaster, where we are pretty confident that we have to come back and do more work. And in the midst of all of that, Mr. President, we got a unanimous vote out of the Senate Appropriations Committee. And we often like to say that we're conflicted and we wish things were better and we wish things were different. But I actually just want to take a moment to celebrate that a bipartisan group of lawmakers who were elected under challenging economic circumstances for many Vermonters got together and said, we can get behind this budget because it's a responsible thing to do right now. Mr. President, we're going to hear that we're giving too much money to some folks who are hurting or not enough money to some folks who are hurting. We're going to hear that we wish we held on to more money, or we wish we spent more money on all of the other systems that are about to buckle under the pressure of what is coming from the Republicans in Washington. And at the epicenter of all of that is an incredibly thoughtful and careful budget. And so, Mr. President, I ask us, when we are facing such an existential crisis and threat to our state, to our well-being, and to our economy, are we going to govern, or are we going to take the easy way out and just say, you know, I wish this was better, and vote no? And so with that question hanging in the air, Mr. President, I ask that when the vote is taken, it be taken by roll.
Senator from Chittenden has requested that when the vote be taken, it be taken by roll. Are you ready for the question? Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just also wanted to remind folks that we do have other money in reserves that we could use in a situation. We have caseload reserves. I was quickly trying to find the dollar amount. I don't want to misrepresent what they are, but we have a 5% stabilization reserve for the general fund, which is hundreds of millions of dollars. And then we have caseload reserve that we can use to address the social services that we need if we have a step back from the federal government. So there are other things that I failed to mention that we have to protect us in that case. And I appreciate the support of the Senate on this budget.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden North.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a question on B318. I think it's the senator from Chittenden Central.
The senator from Chittenden Central is interrogated as the reporter of the appropriations bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm specifically just looking at the 5.5% increase in the CCFAP rate. Can the senator tell me, will the family share for those families increase with this 5% increase?
Thank you, Mr. President. Parents of infants and toddlers would see that increase. So the House had suggested an increase using funds from the Child Care Special Fund to the tune of 4 point something. We increased that, again, with money from the Child Care Special Fund. And the idea is that infants and toddlers are the toughest job to take care of. They require the most money. And the help that those parents were currently receiving was not necessarily enough to raise the number of slots for those kids and to defray costs for the parents. So we have suggested an additional around 1% increase there.
So that's, the senator's referring to the reimbursement to the center program, but is the family share that those families are paying, does that increase also by 5.5%?
No. The share that the parents are paying would not increase because of this. It would theoretically decrease, and the amount paid to the center would increase as well. So the center would make more money. The parents would not be paying that money. It would be the Child Care Special Fund.
Okay. And just one more question. Can the senator tell me what would happen to those individuals that aren't on CCFAP? Would they be absorbing a 5.5% increase in their tuition rate?
Parents who are not receiving subsidy, I don't believe that it would lead to an increase for those parents.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. I'm, speaking as a father with an infant and a toddler, both in daycare right now. It is hard to care for those infants and toddlers. I fully am aware of that, but I was having a conversation the other day with a constituent who also has a toddler, and they don't qualify for CCFAP, and they're talking about how last January their tuition rate went up by 35%, and now they're paying almost $20,000 a year for that infant. And I'm also a board member of the center where my kids go to school, and I fully understand the hard work that all the employees in that center do, and I'm in there for drop off and pick up every now and again as well, and I see the hard work that they do. But in the Chittenden County where I reside, I am very worried about increasing costs on these individuals who don't qualify for CCFAP, trying to be able to afford a $500,000 house in Chittenden County, maybe a couple new cars, maybe paying your groceries. It's very expensive, and I saw what we did last year with a 35% increase to those tuition rates for CCFAP at our center that I represent, and we did great things. We increased our salaries, we expanded our offerings, and I saw all the benefits that money brought, and we're in a great place financially. So I just wanted to bring attention to the body about the cost of those individuals who don't qualify for CCFAP, and that if you have one or two kids, it might be $20,000 to $40,000 to have your kids in care. So I just wanted to bring that to the body's attention. I thank the senator for answering my questions about not having an increase to those folks that are on the CCFAP program. I think that's great. I would not want to increase their family share portion of that. So thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I share many of the concerns that the senators from Essex and Franklin and Rutland have commented on. I also appreciate the work of the 7 senators on the Senate Appropriations Committee. I know it's very, very, very difficult work. So difficult that I've never asked to be on an Appropriations Committee during my time in this building. I am going to vote yes today. And I am voting yes because at this moment in time, within this group, those 7 senators, 3 from one party and 4 from the other, are agreeable. I will only continue to vote yes if we're agreeable with the conferees from the House, and ultimately we can land in a spot where we are agreeable with the governor. And I vote yes today, and I hope that going forward that we can continue to work with our colleagues in the other body, continue to work with the administration and get to a point where everybody is happy with this budget. And if we can get to that place, I'll be glad to vote yes in the end too. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the comments from the senator from Caledonia and from my Republican colleagues. And it is impossible to predict what will come out of a conference committee, but if I had to predict, I would say that what we will see would be fewer positions and slightly less spending. That would be my guess based on conversations with people on both sides of the building and understanding the fifth floor's position on this. With that said, Mr. President, I just wanted to take a moment and recognize the Appropriations Committee, which has undergone a transformation. It was led for many years by Jane Kitchell, who deserves all of our continuing thanks for her work. The senator from Washington, Senator Perchlik, has done an amazing job, and he has stepped into shoes that were unfillable, but he has left his own footprints, and I think he has every right to be proud of what he has done. The committee itself has functioned very, very smoothly and collegially. We've tried our best to make the process smooth. With that, I just want to comment on the idea that we are all facing unprecedented uncertainty. And I'm sure all of you in your news consumption hear the word uncertainty 50 or 60 times a day, because that is the situation in which we find ourselves, and there is no way out in this moment. We have to let things play out to know where we are. I would congratulate the committee also on what the senator from Washington articulated, which is that there are 3 or 4 different constructs in this budget that will allow us greater flexibility in the coming months. So the triggers for the Joint Fiscal Committee and E-Board are different. They have been recalculated and remodulated so that we have greater assurance that no one branch of government will suddenly be zeroed out by the federal government and unable to respond since we're out of session. We also have, as the senator from Washington pointed out, topped off reserves. So along with the $45 potential million in what would have been a waterfall, but which we have restrained from putting in a waterfall, we have the ability to move, I would say, on the order of $100 to $200 million in an absolute emergency to meet those demands. So I feel that not only does this budget do all the work of a normal budget, it sets up a belts and suspenders operation that I think could always be stronger, but we have every reason to have faith in it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, the secretary shall call the roll.
Senator Baru.
Yes.
Senator Beck.
Yes.
Senator Baumgart.
Yes.
Senator Brennan.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
No.
Senator Chittenden.
Yes.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collmore.
No.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Douglas.
No.
Senator Dooley.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
No.
Senator Harrison.
Yes.
Senator Hart.
No.
Senator Hashim.
Yes.
Senator Heffernan.
Nay.
Senator Engel.
No.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Major.
Yes.
Senator Matos.
Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Pershing.
Yes.
Senator Plunkett.
Yes.
Senator Ron Hinsdale.
Yes.
Senator Bohofsky.
No.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Weeks.
No.
Senator Westland.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Senator Williams.
No.
The ayes voting 20, the nays voting 10, and the Senate has passed in concurrence with proposal of amendment H 493. We have on the calendar for action 219, introduced on February 13th, 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Institutions, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that it ought to pass in concurrence. Affecting the expenditures of the state, the bill was referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 219, an act relating to establishing the Department of Corrections Family Support Program.
Recognize the senator from Bennington, Senator Plunkett, for the report of the Committee on Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. President. H219, it is entitled Establishing a Family Support Program, but this is actually codifying a program that has been in effect for some 20 plus years at the women's facility, wherever that has been over the past 20 years. It also expands it now to the men's facilities. So what the Family Support Program does essentially is it provides parent education, access to services for incarcerated folks. But perhaps most importantly with this is it provides child-friendly visitation spaces and crucially reentry support. It has been run by Lund for this entire time, and those who are not familiar with Lund, it's a family support organization dealing with abuse, poverty, addiction. It's been in existence for about 135 years, so they really know what they're doing at this point. The program is called the Kids Apart program. That's kids-a-part. I think it's a play on words, so kids are a part of their parents, whether they're incarcerated or not. So to quickly walk through the bill, Section 1 is the intent of establishing, quote unquote, and expanding the program. And eventually the intent is to have this at all facilities by 2028. But that's more of a hope than something that is actually going to definitely happen. Section 2 indicates that the Department of Corrections must include funding for this program in its request to the governor. And then the governor will decide whether or not that's part of the governor's recommendation for the proposed budget. And Section 3 is the section that actually establishes the program. I discussed briefly what it will do. It also indicates that it can be operated through contracts or grants to nonprofits. It's probably going to be Lund, but it could be anyone. There is also a contingency that the program will also be implemented only to the degree that it is funded. And there will need to be an annual report from the Department of Correction, essentially about how it's going and the progress towards its expansion. Section 4 indicates that it will, quote unquote, start at the Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility, that's the women's facility, and at the Northern State Correctional Facility in Newport. Section 5, that would have been the appropriations that's been deleted, but so the body knows the initial recommendation was approximately $115,000 to continue the women's program and $270,000 to start the program at Northern State. From what we understand, this is already in the Department of Corrections budget for FY26, so it's not part of this budget, and I don't believe it's part of the big bill at all. Section 6 is that it'll go into effect, which is July 1st of this year. Your Committee on Institutions heard from the Lund Center, the interim CEO, the Kids Apart Parenting Program Coordinator, their director for Parent-Child Center Services. We also heard from the Department of Corrections, the Communications Director, and the Executive Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives. Most of your committee also visited the women's facility, went to the Kids Apart section of the facility, and it looks like, as best as they can do in that particular facility, it looks like a daycare. It does have some aspects for older children, but it looks like a place that a child can go and safely visit with their parent. We also heard from Representative Troy Hedrick, the sponsor of the bill from the House, and Representative Sean Sweeney, the reporter of the House bill. Your committee passed it with a 5-0-0 vote, and we ask for the Senate support.
I now recognize the senator from Franklin, Senator Norris, for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator for Bennington came through yesterday and presented 219 to the Appropriations Committee. And as he's explained, there's no cost. BOC has come up with the funding for it. But I always wanted to be that guy that said it's de minimis. So I'm saying it now, it's de minimis. And the vote came out 7-0-0, and we ask for the Senate support. Thank you.
Question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you have ordered third reading of H219. We have on the calendar for action H41, which was passed by the House January 19th, 2025. And it was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the Senate propose to the House that the bill be amended as it appears, starting on page 1115 of today's calendar, and that with such proposal of amendment that the bill ought to pass. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H41, an act relating to abuse of the dead body of a person.
Recognize the senator from Windham District, Senator Hashim, for the report of the Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill report is quite short, but as a warning to senators, the content is quite heavy. I'm just going to dive straight into the walkthrough of the two sections of this bill. Section 1 adds a new statute to Title 13 VSA 3761A, and this is located on page 1115. In summary, this section and its subsections prohibit knowingly and without legal authorization desecrating or engaging in sexual acts with the dead body of a person. It also prohibits engaging in these acts for the purpose of concealing a crime. There are two levels of punitive actions a state may take, both of which are felonies and are described in subsection D. Subsection E provides a clarification regarding cremated remains and also provides a rather descriptive definition of sexual conduct. Section 2 amends Title 18 VSA 5211 in regards to unauthorized burial or removal of the dead body of a person. This changes what was previously a felony to a civil violation for the transportation or burial of a dead person without a burial permit. It does not circumvent or diminish the two new felonies that are created in this bill, both of which are far more specific in order to address the conduct that this bill originally intended to address. We heard from the Vermont Medical Society, sponsor of the bill from the other body, Legislative Council, Planned Parenthood of Northern New England, the Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems, and the daughter of Roberta Martin. I apologize. Also, there's Section 3, which is the effective date of July 1, 2025. The vote in committee was 5-0-0, and I ask for the Senate support.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House to amend the bill as proposed by the Committee on Judiciary. The question now is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you have ordered third reading of H 41. We have on the calendar for action H 98, an act related to confirmatory adoptions, which was passed by the House on January 10th, 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the Senate propose to the House that the bill be amended as it appears starting on page 1117 of today's calendar, and that with such proposal of amendment, the bill ought to pass. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 98, an act relating to confirmatory adoptions.
Recognize the senator from Windham, Senator Hashim, to report of the Committee on Judiciary.
Mr. President, given the time constraints and the work that needs to be done in Senate education, I would ask that we pass over this one legislative bill.
We will pass over H 98. We will move on to H 137. We have on the calendar for action H 137, which was passed by the House on March 13th, 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the Senate propose to the House that the bill be amended as it appears starting on page 1141 in today's calendar, and that with such proposal of amendment that the bill ought to pass. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 137, an act relating to the regulation of insurance products and services.
I recognize the senator from Washington, Senator Cummings, for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bad news is that this is a housekeeping bill, so it's going to be slightly long and fairly boring. The good news is that usually we do a DFR housekeeping and a captive insurance housekeeping bill. This year combines them, so you only have to go through it once. H 137 is basically housekeeping. Senate Finance has added 2 amendments, and they are in the calendar today. And I will go through those as I get to them. Section 1 pertains to confidentiality clause for investigations and examinations conducted by DFR. There's several sections of organizations, things that are regulated by DFR. Right now, there's confidentiality sections in every one of them. This is part of their continuing effort to combine things, and so this sets a confidentiality standard and makes it clear that this applies to everyone that is regulated under Title 9, Title 9, and that also under Title 8. Section 2 deletes a cross-reference to a repealed law. Section 3 pertains to property and casualty insurance rates. Right now, if a company raises your property and casualty insurance rates, they have to do it 15 days, before 15 days after the rates have been put into place. This would require that they notify the Department of Insurance 30 days before. Section 4 makes it clear that insurance companies cannot discriminate against affordable or low-income housing purely because they are low income. This doesn't say that if you are doing a higher than the norm damage rate or, you know, that there are higher payouts, that you can't raise it, but you cannot charge them a higher rate just based on the fact of who they are housing. Yes, section 5 through 14 is, are the captive insurance sections. Section 5 makes it clear that captive insurance companies that may conduct any type of insurance authorized in Vermont. So we don't have to keep coming back and saying, you can do this kind of insurance and you can do that kind. If it is a form of insurance that allows in Vermont, then captive insurance can, you know, can provide that, can be set up to provide that type of insurance for those, for everybody else. All right, section 6. Section 6 takes up a good portion of this bill. Section 6 will be repeated in sections 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14, so I won't go over those. And what section 6 says, a lot of the law says that various documents have to be signed by the executive. Well, many of these organizations, especially captives, are set up as LLCs, and there is no executive. So what this makes clear in all these sections in various parts of the law is that if you don't have an executive, that the documents can be signed by someone authorized by the board of directors. And so that might, you know, that would be maybe your treasurer or the board chair would be a normal one, but it is who the board of directors authorizes to sign on their behalf. Section 7, captives formed as a mutual insurer, makes clear that they have to comply with the general law applicable to mutual insurers. Okay, 8 and 9 are the who can sign sections. Section 10 pertains to captives. It provides that reinsurance and specifies that a captive may reinsure any insurance policy authorized in Vermont, similar to what we did before. 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all who can sign. Let's see, 14, also 14 pertains to the governance standards applicable to risk retention groups and essentially proposes to amend how the existing statute is constructed to more accurately conform with the model law on which it was originally based. Section 15. Yes, section 15. Last year in this bill, we set up a series of requirements for money transmission businesses. And when we started doing this, it was Western Union. You could wire money to your kid in college. Well, do I have to say there are many different ways to transfer money? You can still wire it, I think, but you can Venmo it, you can PayPal transmits money on my behalf from my credit card to whoever I am purchasing things from. When we did that, we roped in some very small payroll companies, and they have come forward, and this is a major inconvenience and concern. So what this bill does is it exempts companies that perform payroll calculations, prepare payroll instructions, prepare and file income withholding reports and UI reports or other payroll-related services, but that do not engage in payroll processing. Companies that do not provide payroll processing services to an employer that has its principal place of business, that is headquarters in Vermont, and smaller payroll processors, not more than 25 employers in Vermont, not more than 500 employees anywhere, fewer than 300 Vermont resident employees, no felonies, no license revocations, and doesn't otherwise engage in money transmissions, keeps money in segregated accounts, or deposits it in FDIC-insured institutions or credit unions. These, again, were very small companies. They might be located primarily out of state. Having to comply with our laws put them at really a great inconvenience. And so this will, and we have had no problems with these companies. So this lets them out. Section 16 is fondly known as the Rocket Mortgage Amendment. This would allow, would permit charges on a general loan. The purpose of the amendment specifies the discount points, that is upfront fees or prepaid interest paid to the lender used at a borrower's request for the purpose of lowering the applicable interest rate are permitted. So if you can pay upfront, apparently Rocket Mortgage, I believe, is an online mortgage company. You can pay them a lump sum up front and get a lower interest rate over the course of your mortgage, which will lower your monthly payments. And for many people, that is a significant advantage. Section 17, 18, and 19 are all DFR-related studies, and I can go through those if you would like. But it's late, so I'm not going to. The Section 20 and 21 proposes to eliminate a requirement for an individual actuarial analysis of certain proposed Medicare supplement insurance increases and would instead require DFR to post information on their website. The way this was set up between the companies who have to have actuarial audits and DFR, there were 2 to 3 actuarial assessments. And in the experience of DFR, they all agreed. And that makes me feel more confident in our actuaries. And they are expensive, they are time consuming, and they just feel it is belts and suspenders and should not be required. Okay. 22 through 24. This is our virtual currency kiosks. You may be familiar. We had 3 a year ago. We only have 2 kiosks. You can go online. You can, don't ask me how, it's beyond my age criteria, but you can go online and you can buy Bitcoin, virtual currency, and they can be used for a variety of things. One of the things that people are concerned about is once you purchase them and you send them out to your virtual wallet, or if you're purchasing something, you might send it to somebody else's virtual wallet. There is no physical thing to reclaim. It can be used for illegal purposes. Money laundering comes up. But it is, you can do it on blockchain, and I'm looking at the Senator Windsor, because I remember at one point her husband came in and explained virtual businesses and blockchain to the Economic Development Committee, so I vaguely know what it is. It can be traced, but it also can be used, and once it's gone, you can't get it back. It's not like you can return it. And so 2 years ago, I think DFR, 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't sure if this should be treated under banking regulations, under security regulations. it was a new animal and no one was quite sure how to regulate it. But we also know it has the potential for abuse. One of those abuses we have seen is with seniors. It is the new variation of the phone call in the middle of the night from your grandson who's being held in jail in Mexico, and you need to run down to your local 24-hour store and buy 3 gift cards. Well, now you need to run out to the kiosk, put $1,000 in it, and send it to this wallet somewhere, unknown, very hard. You can't get it back once the money's gone in that little black box. And so there's been concerns about how you do this. On the other hand, when this bill came to us, last year we extended the moratorium. We allowed the one company that owned 3 kiosks in this state to continue. We put a moratorium on any new companies or any new kiosks. They have removed 1 kiosk. There are 2. I don't know where. And they work similar to ATMs. And you put your money in, and it is, the future. One of the testimonies was that a couple of nations have started recognizing virtual currency by their national banks. So we don't really want to be holding up progress, but we really want to protect our citizens. And we hope this has found a way to do that. This is the result of, we have held off on this bill, passing it out, because we were told that DFR and the company that has the kiosk here were very close, very close. Last week, they reached agreement, and we voted, I believe we were 7-0-0, to allow these 2 to continue. And we have, the moratorium for anyone else remains, and it's only lifted for these 2 for a year with all these requirements. So first, to each virtual currency transaction, the operator must disclose its refund policy, a customer warning, and a daily transaction limit. Section, for new kiosk accountants, the operator must make numerous disclosures related to customer liability, operator liability, data sharing, a statement of material risks associated with virtual currency, and GFR contact information. This is the one thing the industry got. It increases the transaction amount, which is currently $1,000, to $2,000 for new customers. That's the first time you put your money in the machine, and $5,000 for existing customers. It increases the fee cap from 3% to 15%. The testimony was that they were losing money at 3%, and since this also ups the requirement of they make full restitution if there's any fraud to new customers, and increases their cost for things that they are going to attach to these machines. To help cover operational costs, establish new customer identification requirements, such as an ID and a photo, requires an operator to offer live customer support during hours of operation, requires mandatory live screening for new customers over 60 years of age, or any customer attempting to conduct more than $10,000 in transactions over a consecutive 10-day period, requires blockchain analytics to prevent fraud, requires full refunds for new customers and fee refunds for existing customers in the event of any fraudulently induced transactions, provide fraud is reported within 90 days, requires a kiosk operator to have an anti-fraud policy, a due diligence policy, a compliance officer, and a consumer protection officer. And finally, the commissioner will need to adopt rules, but they are going to now have to retrofit cameras on every one of these kiosks so that and you will have to submit a picture ID. So you've got to put your real ID up there. They're going to be able to see you so they know the person doing this transaction is the person on the ID. And they'll know, they will be able to see your face. They'll be able to see if somebody is standing behind you with a gun. It should give you some protection. And again, these are for the 2 kiosks. And again, anyone can go online right now and buy virtual currency from the comfort of their kitchen table on their computer. Okay, that is the kiosk. And second is the finance amendment. This was initiated by the Vermont Bankers Association. And there are currently 2 mutual banks in Vermont. Those are banks that are owned by the depositors. One of those banks is in the process of becoming a holding company. The provisions in the bill have been suggested by the FDIC to greater protect members and depositors' interest and and deposits by making changes to the representation on the board of directors. This will, and it should make it, when done, it should make it easier for this one bank in Vermont to meet the Federal Reserve requirements. It needs Federal Reserve permission to go from a mutual bank to a holding company. So these are all, financial overseers' suggestions, and I can go through the list, but it probably wouldn't make all that much sense because it is different language. But our witness list was Ted Barnett, our Joint Fiscal Office, Sandy Higglestone, who's the Acting Commissioner of DFR, Emily Brown, Deputy Commissioner of Insurance, Chris Delia, President of Vermont Bankers, Aaron Fenrick, Deputy Commissioner of Banking, David Pfeiffer, Senior Director of Government Affairs from Rocket Mortgage, Mike Fisher, Chief Healthcare Advocate, Robin Imbrogno, who is the Independent Payroll Providers Association, and Maria Royal, and I don't have on here, but I must have it on my other sheet. Larry, where's Larry? Larry Lipka, who is the Senior Vice President and General Counsel for CoinFlip, which is the organization that owns the 2 kiosks that we have. Vote in committee was, I believe, 7-0-0, and we asked this body to concur.
The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And you have proposed to the House to amend the bill as proposed by the Committee on Finance. The question now is, shall the bill be read a 3rd time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered 3rd reading of H 137. That completes the orders of the day. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would move that our rules be suspended and that we message the actions just taken on H 493, an act relating to making appropriations for the support of the government, to the House forthwith.
Senator from Chittenden has moved that the Senate suspend its rules and message the action taken on H 493 to the House forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we have messaged our action to the House on 493 forthwith. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. And pending announcements, I would move that the Senate stand in adjournment until 11:30 a.m. Friday, May 2nd.
Are there any announcements? Senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Republicans will meet very briefly for a very brief caucus over in this corner immediately after the fall of the gavel. Thank you.
Senator, you mean the Senate Republicans?
Senate Republicans, what did I say?
House Republicans.
Thank you.
Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Government Operations will meet at 3, and I wonder if I might inquire the pro temp.
If he desires.
I was wondering, Mr. President, whether there might be a Rules Committee immediately following the floor to move along one of the charters.
I see no problem with that, Mr. President, and I would just look for nods around the Chamber for Rules Committee members. So we will have a brief Rules Committee meeting following the fall of the gavel.
Thank you.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope the Republican caucus is brief because several of them are on my committee. And Senate Finance will meet at 3 o'clock.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Appropriation will meet at 3 o'clock to take up a bill that we have.
Are there any further announcements? Senator from Bennington.
Mr. President, the Senate Education Committee will meet at 3:50 if possible. We'll assume thereafter if possible. We'll be ready.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Windsor.
I'm sorry, 2:50.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to stand up. Happy May Day, everybody. I would just like to remind everybody, all my colleagues in the Senate, that next Thursday is Cabaret. And I would urge you to buy your tickets online and get your skits and songs pulled together.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to let the Senate know that it is International Workers' Day, and we should celebrate the working class Vermonters that make our economy run, keep our state running, and there will be a rally to do so on the State House lawn today at 4:30.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate stand in adjournment until 11:30 a.m. Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we'll stand in adjournment until 11:30 a.m. Friday, May 2nd, 2020.